Her story's turning into gold. She's taking her power back. Yeah, she's on the rise. Strength in her soul, fire in her eyes. Keeping God first, watch her dreams unfold. Her life's a diamond, breaking the mold. Oh, she's taking her power back. Yeah, she's taking her power back. Harmony.
Welcome to 20 Minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. Thank you so much for joining me. And this episode is going to be able to find you wherever you are, because we're talking about community engagement. And my guest today is the CEO of the Journey of Discovering You, which collaborates with schools, communities, and students in better outcomes for students in regards to education. Please help me welcome my guest, Janice Thomas. Janice, thank you so much for being with us on today.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. I'm so glad to get you on, because I commend the work that you do with the communities, and you have a passion for it.
Yes.
And the students. So can you give me a little bit more background about Discovering You, the Journey of Discovering You? Actually, because I mentioned in the opening, y'all get involved with the schools, communities, I think also at parents as well, right?
Definitely parents, working with the parents. That's key right now in education. I wouldn't say that I got in this work by default. Being the former president of the Phyllis Wheatley Alumni Association, I'm a graduate of the class of 1986. And so we were celebrating our 30-year reunion when I was out there in the community. And then I learned that, there was difficulties with the school system. Me being a parent of 3, I never really paid attention to what was happening in our schools. My daughters knew, don't bring bad grades home. We don't want mom at school. So I just didn't have those challenges that I began to see that many of our families were having out there. And so during that time, Phyllis Wheatley was on the school that they had chose out of over 50 or more schools that were struggling, DF-rated schools. And Wheatley was, do we leave it open or do we close it? And so, of course, that being my high school, and I'm the president of the Alumni Association, I'm like, what are we doing? Are we talking to parents? Do students know? And does the community know what's going on? And apparently, very few people knew what was happening at that school. Very few people knew that it was failing.
With Phyllis Wheatley.
Yeah, Phyllis Wheatley High School.
When was this? Was this?
This was like 2017, 18.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's not too long ago.
Yeah, that's why we got to stay here today because of that. But one of the things that the community had to do was answer as to what do we want to do with that school? Did we want our school to close, or did we want them to come in and try to refurbish the school, revamp the schools? And so the parents had to sign petitions saying, hey, we want our schools to stay, we want the school to stay open. And I was out there and I was like, hey, we need to keep our school open. We need to fight for our school. And because there's a lot of political stuff that I began to see that I was not familiar with at all, still not today. And my thing was was so important that the community knew what was going on and the big decisions that depended on them. And I was out there like telling people like, look, if you don't make this decision, by default we lose. Get in here, let's fight. Let's say we want our schools to stay open.
Wow. Yeah, that wasn't long ago, and that took you actually having to get out. This is where Discovering You really came into play.
Yeah, it really Discovering You just really got involved when not seeing parents, not seeing the community being able to truly advocate in a way that was more impactful. And then I just began to learn more and more about what was happening in the school system and learn what is the role of the board. Because school boards is the one that have that relationship with the community. Were they telling, the community what was happening? What decisions were they making when they were sitting at the dais? And most community did not know who their board trustee was at that time. Even today, a lot of communities are not familiar with who their board trustee. But these are the people who make the decisions regarding the schools, whether to close the campus, whether it's about curriculum, about the budget, Phyllis Wheeler is one of 270 some schools that HISD has. And so um, a lot of funding support just wasn't made available at the school for those students. And when it got to F status, we have a law here in Texas that says that basically, if a campus has been underperforming for 5 years, then you have to go in there and close the school. They have to make a decision. And I see that as like a statute, a wall, right? You're getting closer and closer and closer. If you have a campus that's been struggling 3, 4, 5 years, knowing that at some point you have to make a decision as to what you're going to do with that campus, even though it's hard, we have to make those decisions and let the community know, let the parents know, let the students know what is happening, why it's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's how my involvement got, and just wanting to help parents better understand, make the decisions, make sure that their child was getting the support that they need from the campus. And if they were not, just working with the parents and showing them how to communicate that, to the district or to the campus leadership, so that way it doesn't look like being abrupt. So and that's important.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to our topic, community engagement. Because you mentioned with your daughters, you have 3 daughters, right? You didn't really, your kids knew to bring good grades home. So really you weren't as involved as you are now because you didn't feel at the time there really was a need.
Right.
So community engagement, how important is it for parents to kind of get involved in the community and school activities to actually see what's happening within the communities of their schools?
Not just parents, you just want to say community. And I said definitely important for parents just because parents are closer to their child.
Yeah.
And they know what support, they don't know what supports. They know that my child needs some additional help. They don't know exactly what it is. But being engaged and having that conversation with the campus leadership or or their child's teacher is extremely important to make sure that we're actually working together in the best interest of the child.
Yeah.
And I always like, the scenario I use is just like a divorce, right? You divorce, you got children. And you still have to come to an agreement on how we're going to raise this child, right? Regardless of our spats with each other, we have to come to an agreement. And so that parent engagement at campus is extremely important. So that way parents can go to the campus leader and campus teacher and say, hey, my child needs some additional support. They're struggling here, they're struggling there. Or even if I'm having a personal family issue, my child may have lost a loved one or something may have happened in the community. Just being able to go to the campus and share that information with that trusted individual who I believe has the best interest of my child is important. Community is important as well because community deals with a lot of different issues as well as like the leadership at a school, our representative, council representative, and all of that. It's extremely important that they be there because they part of the decision makers too, and they have influence with a certain population, just like the school do. And so just being in there, knowing that we need to be making these decisions. We don't want people to be making decisions for us. And taking action on that, sharing what I've learned. Like, hey, this is what resources is available. This is what opportunities. Just like they have applications open right now for the Texas Education Freedom account, which is they used to call it ESSA. No, not ESSA, but ESA, Education Savings Account. And then they went from there and they called it vouchers, but now they landed with Texas Education Freedom Account. And those are where parents who want to send their kids to the private schools or homeschool, they can get that support to do that. But in certain communities, that information is not there.
It's not shared.
It's not shared.
And what is it? It's the Freedom?
Texas Education Freedom Account?
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm sure there may be parents listening that don't even know about that account. And I wanted to ask about the community engagement and getting people involved with schools, because if the information is not being distributed, not being given out to everyone, then everyone don't necessarily have a fair chance
Right.
to get. So how do you get people involved? okay, let me put it like this. If I want to get involved in the community, and I may not have kids, and I could have kids, but I'm not really sure where to get started, or if there are certain requirements for me to get started in order to be a part of a community engagement event. So what would you tell me to do to get started?
And number one, depends on what community
in.
you're actually in. Most communities have what we call super neighborhoods.
Okay.
Finding out where those meetings are, what days they meet, and meeting with the super neighborhood leadership team to find out what activities, events they're doing in that community. If not, they got civic clubs in those communities as well. So if you find what is your local community civic club, by finding out that way, like you can get involved that way in that type of community event, or even if you just start your own, whatever you're passionate about. Like this is what I believe we need in the community. I just happened to was at a store yesterday and just random. I stopped this young lady. I said, "Hey, I just want to take a few minutes of your time, and would you share with me what local issues in your this community here that's important to you?" Because every community, their need and issues are different. And so she shared with me that. I was like, wow, that was very easy conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I need to go do more of that.
Just randomly out. Just wow. Yeah.
Yeah, just knowing and finding out what's happening in the community and letting the community know that how changes in policies may have an impact on you and your family. What changes in these and we need to know. What's important for us is to make sure that we let them know if these policies are working for us, or is it something that's beneficial, is it hurting us, or what.
Yeah.
And so every time we have new changes in our laws, people are implementing it. They're attempting to make efforts to implement these policies, but they may not be implemented in a way that is beneficial for everyone.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. And that's a good thing that you did, just randomly out at the store, stopping someone and asking, what's important to you in this community? Because as you mentioned before, and it's something to really think about, every community may not have the same need.
Right.
And that is so true. And I know that you're passionate about it. I met Janice a few years ago through Phyllis Wheatley Alumni Association, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's how she and I met. And Janice has been passionate ever since. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about that, because I really feel like there is a need for more of us to get involved in the community. And I feel like sometimes people really don't know where to start.
Yeah, it's definitely need. It's definitely need. We don't know what we don't know, right?
That's true.
And so when you're dealing with, my area of focus is the area where the campuses struggle the most, where been classified as a high economic disadvantaged community, where kids are at risk. It's a large population of at-risk kids are homelessness, and so that's been my area of focus. But that community are not engaged or actually even involved in what's going on in education. I think that many of the parents just, know that they need to send their kids to school. They send their kids to school, and that's it. But they just not really involved in this, just that they do not have the resources, the information that could help them, be more engaged with it.
Right. Yeah. So I think when I was coming up as a kid, my parents, they were pretty involved, but like you said, we knew too, don't come home with no, they took education seriously. And two things: you don't come home with no report that you at the school cutting up.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you don't come home with bad grades, and we know you're not putting in effort or whatever. If you're doing your best, that's one thing. So those two things definitely. But
I got number 3.
What was your number 3?
My number 3 for my daughters: don't let that teacher call my house
Oh.
or call me
Yeah.
at work. Don't let.
Now, you know what? You're right. Because I remember one time my dad had to get called because they couldn't reach my mom, and he was at work, and woo. So, and that was not on me. That was another sibling, but I'm not going to mention who it was.
Right. Don't. So, yeah. And I just know that parents, in my heart, I believe parents really want to be more involved and engaged. I believe they trust the campus leadership, and that's why we don't see a lot of them. But then there's so much in the education system to learn that that's not my space. I don't want to go there. I'm going to trust the leadership that's there.
You feel like some people are intimidated by the different things that's in the system that,
Yes,
yeah.
especially on the campus, and the leadership that's there. We gotta look. We have to see each other, and I feel like parents are not seen when they walk on the campus.
Oh, that's good. You don't feel like they're seen. Do you feel like their voices are really heard?
No, depending on what campus they're at. Depends on what campus they at, what community they live in.
I'm not going to ask you what
They
campus.
hear you. They hear you. That's it. So,
I'm not going to ask you. Those are good points, though. I'm laughing, but those are very good points. And sometimes when you don't feel like you're seen or heard, it's like, what's the use of putting forth the effort?
my thing is the child
Yeah.
is what we're there for. The outcome of it, we're looking for to create a safe space for children, education system where they can learn and they can thrive. I don't want to give up on the child.
And that should be the focus of the visits and getting involved with the community, especially when it comes to education.
We want education justice, and it's not there for the children. When adults choose to, just turn away because they can't deal with the other adult, the child is left harmed. And then that child grows up, and that child is resentful because of the way they were mistreated or ignored, growing up by the parent or even by the system itself.
Ooh, so we have work to do.
We
Like
got a
in the-
lot of work
yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to do in this space, and we actually started a movement. So outside of my nonprofit, I work with a governance team, and our primary mantra is student outcomes don't change, so adult behaviors change. And so, are you doing what you say you're gonna do? How many times are you looking at yourself? Because the little key thing with that is when we say student outcomes don't change, so adult behaviors change. Starting with me, starting with you. We're looking at ourselves. Like, what are we doing? What could I have done differently to make this situation better for this child, so we can get better outcomes for this child?
Wow, I like that mantra. Yeah, it's taking self-inventory.
Taking self-inventory, yes.
Wow. Do you think it's important for okay, maybe like your educators or your leaders on the school campuses, how important is it for them to actually reach out beyond just calling and saying, hey, your child is in trouble, they're disrupting the class? How important is it for them to actually reach out, maybe to the parents, not related to school, but just trying to build a rapport or relationship? You know how sometimes they have the police officers to go out and they patrol the communities or whatever to try to get out and just kind of break down the barrier. How do you see that working with leaders reaching out, but other than I'm calling to tell you about your child?
I believe that's extremely important, especially in certain communities, especially, right? The community where they feel like they are not heard and nobody's paying attention to them. Just calling and saying, your child did very well today. I believe that's extremely important, that relationship, because it starts with relationship.
Yeah.
Without relationship, there's no connection. And so, someone, I hear them talk like, oh, it's you got Black, Hispanic, kids on campus, that's cultural differences, all that. But I'm going to add, it's another culture in there too, and that's that professional culture, the adults that's in there. That's a culture too, that our children have to deal with that,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't believe there's much cultural difference with our children, because I think they come together and they do what they have to do. They living in their environment together. They have their little wars and come back and be friends. But that other culture is those adults who, see themselves differently than the children. Their lenses, they're looking different. And so the kids in that need to be built in a relationship. And that same culture is the very culture that keep the parents out.
Because the common goal should be the education of the child and the well-being. And you don't have to necessarily, because I know we're talking about students, education, parents, leaders on campuses, but even people that are not parents can definitely get involved. Do maybe volunteer for some type of organization or volunteer for an outreach community event or whatever. There are always ways for people, whether you have children or not, that can actually get involved. And I wanted to ask about community engagement and what you can do to get started, because sometimes we think we have to take these big leaps in order to just get started. You like you went to the store and you were talking to people, asking them about things that mattered in their community. So I could actually do that and maybe start something that I actually see that's actually passionate. If I don't see it out there, get it started or whatever. But I think you just have to be consistent with it in order to see the results. So thank you so much, Janice, for coming. How do people reach you if they want to talk to you more about community engagement, about the journey to discovering you, and getting involved with the community as it relates to education?
Oh wow! I have a website. It's www.discoveringyou with the letter U
Yeah.
.info. Also, I'm on Facebook, The Journey of Discovering You. We also have an Instagram site. Um, those are ways that I can be reached. You can also find Janice Thomas on just regular Facebook page as well.
Okay.
If people want to get involved, and I would encourage people, because even if you don't have children in school, the fact that that school lives in your community,
Yes.
it affects your property taxes.
So get involved.
Get involved. Your taxes going to go up.
Yeah. So your simple note, if you would leave a simple note with the audience, would it be get involved?
I would say there's a need for you.
Okay.
There is a need for you. I mean, we all bring so many different gifts and talents to the table, and you just never know where you would be a great fit. But right now, the communication gap is so wide.
This has been really good, and I'm sure it has been informative and possibly encouraging for someone that have not actually stepped out. So thank you all so much for joining 20 Minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. And if I was to leave a simple note from Rita today, it would be your presence matter. So get involved. You can reach Janice on Facebook, I think Instagram, just the website itself. Just type in Janice Thomas, or probably the journey to discovering you too as well.
But the website is www.discoveringyou.info.
.info. And it's
Yeah.
the U, the letter U.
Yeah, letter U.
So thank you once again for joining 20 Minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. Until the next episode, be blessed. Bye.
Oh, she's taking up power